Hey, guess who's back? Back again. X is back. Tell a friend. But yeah, I have not done a video in a couple years. The last video I made was literally talking about the John Morant controversy. Excuse me. I did not mean to do that. I'm gonna edit that part out. I'm probably not gonna edit that part out, but whatever. But yeah, I have not made a video in 2 years because I haven't had the motivation to make a video because of school. So this channel was pretty much forgotten. But I have been playing with the idea of coming back to YouTube and making, videos like this. But I don't want to make this about me. Let's just get right into it. All right. So, as y'all know, the Jimmy Butler situation has been very, very, how do you say it? Surmising, I guess, if that's the right word. I guess lack of a better word. If I have a better word, I'm probably just gonna edit like a little typo thing at the very top of the screen. But it's very interesting to say the least, because it just feels like you could tell that this season in particular was very different vibe wise, because if you saw in the introductory press conference, when all the teams did like their media day and such, you could see in Jimmy's body language that there was something amiss between him and the Heat organization. And obviously, if you date it back to what we saw back in May of 2024, early May, I should say, when the Celtics and the Heat were squaring off in the first round of the playoffs, and then Miami got absolutely gobsmacked. Yeah, no Jimmy, no Terry Rozier, but Jimmy made some comments saying that, if we played Boston, we would kick their asses, and if we played the New York Knicks, and then I don't think he mentioned the Indiana Pacers, but he would definitely go as far as to say we would kick Indiana's ass as well. Pat Riley released a statement saying Jimmy should essentially just shut up and dribble. That's what he said. And that just ain't all, y'all. Like, you got to look at some of the things that transpired back in this, well, literally last month. I don't know why I was about to say back in December, but last month, Shams put out a report, or Shams Charania, who is Woj's replacement, I should say. He put out a statement saying Jimmy's open to trading to these trade destinations. Those trade destinations being the Phoenix Suns, the Golden State Warriors, the Houston Rockets, and the Dallas Mavericks. And Jimmy's agent came out and said that, this ain't true. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jimmy wants to stay in Miami and blase, blase, blase. And then time passes on, and then Pat Riley last week released a statement saying, we ain't going to trade Jimmy. And last night, or maybe if I post this on Saturday, I'm recording this on a Friday night. So if I post it on Saturday, I'll just say it as if this were Saturday. 2 nights ago, Jimmy and the Heat were gobsmacked by the Pacers. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tyrese Halliburton had a great game, and he had the Tyrese Halliburton performance, which apparently that dude has been missing all season, and his team has not been stellar per se since their run to the conference finals. But that's a whole nother issue. But they got beat. Jimmy did not play at all in the fourth quarter. Now, who knows why? Because it was a blowout at first, yeah, but the Heat started making a comeback. You would think Eric Spoelstra would put Jimmy back in to at least ignite one final run. Even though, yeah, Jimmy had 9 points, and Jimmy has been looking very, very subpar this season. Jimmy did not play at all in the fourth quarter, and then after the game, they lost the game 128 to 115. Shout out their big Ware, number 7 on the Heat, Calla Ware, or whatever his name is. A lot of Heat fans are saying that this is what happens when you insert a big next to Bam in the game and such and such. Jimmy essentially came out. I'm not gonna play the clip because I don't want to, get copyrighted or whatever. Jimmy just essentially said that, look, I don't feel any more joy playing in Miami. I'm happy with Miami as a city. I love it here. I'm cool with all the guys off the court, but I don't feel like I can win here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I could find my joy playing basketball in a Heat uniform, and I'm better off playing somewhere else. So what do I make of this? I don't know, man. This is just a weird ass scenario, bro. Like, I don't think Pat Riley did enough to structure a team around Jimmy. At the end of the day, Pat Riley's gonna do what's best for the Miami Heat, understandably so. But I feel like if he wanted to maximize Jimmy's potential, or not potential, Jimmy's ability in Miami, he would have at least pulled some strings to get a bidding star, like not a budding star, not bidding, budding star, or a superstar already. Like, y'all remember that Damian Lillard trade that fell flat on its face because I think Portland wanted Tyler Hero or Bam, I believe, and the Heat, they were not willing to budge, so they call off the deal. Dame gets traded to Portland for Jrue Holiday. I mean, Dame gets traded to Milwaukee, excuse me, for Jrue Holiday. And then the Miami Heat got left with Terry Rozier, who would have been good for this team in 2021-22 instead of Kyle Lowry. But, that's just me. Like, if you look at what the Lakers did, remember, they got LeBron in 2018. They tried making the trade for Anthony Davis at the 2019 trade deadline, and unfortunately, that didn't fall through. So they went at it again in the offseason of 2019, the same offseason where Paul George and Kawhi Leonard went to the Clippers and Jimmy made his transition from Philadelphia to Miami. The Lakers got LeBron. They got LeBron. They got LeBron some help in one of the premier power forwards, if not the premier power forward at the time, in Anthony Davis, and it worked out in the end because LeBron and AD won a championship, and they brought back the championship to LA. Even though the Suns trade for Kevin Durant is gonna look really bad going forward, you can also give credit to the Suns GM too, because Devin Booker is able to play with a guy of Durant's caliber. You know what I mean? Like, at least you could say Matt Ishbia and the Suns. Yeah, Mikal Bridges, he's balling for the Knicks. Cam Johnson, he's a good player, and I think he'll be traded to a contender at the trade deadline. But at the same time, this is Kevin Durant. You would make the trade for KD, especially a KD that is still in his prime at the time. You know what I mean? So you can at least Suns fans can say that we at least swung for the fences. I still hate the Suns, by the way. I still have not gotten rid of that energy from that video I made in May of 2022. That's a whole nother issue again. But my point being is that even if the Dame Lillard trade didn't work out with Jimmy, at least you can say that, all right, maybe Pat Riley, at least Pat Riley tried pulling the strings. It didn't work in the end. And right now, Dame is looking really good in Milwaukee, but Milwaukee still looks really shaky. I got to see where they're at the end of the season because I believe in their potential, but I just need to see what they're fully capable of, fully healthy come playoff time. But again, that's a whole nother video. My point being is that Pat Riley and the Heat front office did not do a good job, in my personal opinion. Maybe some of y'all think differently. That's absolutely fine. But in my opinion, I don't think they maximized Jimmy's ability with that team enough to a point where they could be a legit threat in the East. Rather, they're relying on undrafted players and second-round picks, hoping they turn into stars, which has somewhat worked out for them because Bam is a good player. He's been an all-star. I think he's a two-time All-Star. And Tyler Hero, he's having a great year this year, or he's having a good year this year, but he's always been a good player. Duncan Robinson's a good shooter. Terry Rozier, good acquisition, but he would have been better in 2020, 2021, yada, yada, yada. But even with that, I don't think that's good enough to really contend for a championship. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of what strings Jimmy is trying to pull here either. And let me explain why. I have not been a fan of how Jimmy has necessarily conducted himself toward the team, with the team, or has presented himself with the team, I should say, throughout this year. What do I mean by that? Well, it's bad enough that you could tell in his body language in a lot of these games that he clearly does not want to be there, and in the game against Indiana, you could tell he didn't want to be there. Like he was mentally checked out of not only that game, but the team in particular. But then you hold a press conference saying that that you're not happy and you don't want to, you don't want to be here anymore because you don't feel like you can win here. But your agent got into a, I was about to say got into a shouting match, got into a dispute with Shams essentially, where Shams says you want to get traded, but your agent comes back and pushes back on the statement. This is just a bad handling by Jimmy and his team, man. Like I don't think Jimmy handled this in a very professional way, and I honestly think this move could be a lot more detrimental if he doesn't play his cards right with the upcoming trade deadline and within or what's going to happen within those 7 games that he's suspended, because he's suspended for 7 games for conduct detrimental to the team. And I'm a Jimmy fan, but I gotta say it like it is. I am not surprised in the slightest that he would do something like this, because as someone who's followed Jimmy's career, he has done this. He did it with Chicago, calling out Fred Hoiberg, which I usually don't have a problem with. But there were a lot of other things that led Jimmy to wanting out. He got to Minnesota, paired with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. Tried to instill that win now mode with those 2 players who were considered the franchise cornerstones at the time before Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? Jimmy didn't like it there. Ran a practice where he was starting with the third stringers. He beat the starters, and he was talking mad you know what to them. Which, if y'all don't believe me, just go look up Jeff Teague's story on his podcast. And then you get traded to Philly, paired with a premier big man, an upcoming star in Ben Simmons at the time. At the time. Don't kill me because I put Star and Simmons together. This was at the time. Jimmy could bring that Philly toughness back, and he could be that star next to Embiid. And I fully believe, on a side note, that he's Joel Embiid's best teammate as of right now. James Harden is his second. It's not Paul George. Tyrese Maxey may slide his way into that first spot. I think he's rapidly approaching, but as of right now, Jimmy is his best teammate in Philly. He didn't like it there because the organization wanted to control him. I made a video a few years ago talking about the timeline of the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's that timeline's going to downward spiral, and I feel like that video is aging a little well too. Okay, I'm going to try to speed this up. You signed with Miami, you got it good there for a while, and you're able to make an NBA Finals, or 2 NBA Finals, in fact, and lead your team to multiple playoff runs. So I get Jimmy's frustration in hindsight because he did give the team his all. He gave him 5.5 years worth of relevancy, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Or if that's even an applicable word here. But he did all he could for that franchise. All Jimmy needed was some help. You know, he was the reason why they forced a game 6 against the Heat forced a game 6 against the Lakers. Jimmy was a big reason for that. Jimmy nearly beat the Celtics by himself with one shot that could have changed the entire NBA, well, not changed the entire NBA landscape, but the landscape of that specific playoffs if he made that pull-up 3. Made the finals again and got demolished by Denver, even though there were a couple games that were relatively close, but overall it's just like, it wasn't a good matchup for Miami. I mean, Jimmy did try his best. He tried to ignite a comeback in Game 5 and so on and so on. The Dame trade didn't fall through. You get outed in the first round, albeit you and Terry were injured. And now, present day, you just don't feel happy. And like Charles Barkley said it best, that relationship has been fractured since last year's playoffs. But Charles also said something really interesting, is that, and a lot of y'all probably want to ask me, who do you think he's going to play for, or who is his next team going to be? That's what I'm trying to find out, because I don't think the Warriors are willing to pay him. Because remember, both Charles and Shaq and Kenny made this point, or all Charles and Shaq and Kenny made this point. Klay used to be really great. Klay Thompson. He was great for all those years, but Golden State did not want to pay him for a reason. They made a business decision. Like, Klay, we love you here. We'll retire your jersey. I don't think Miami's going to retire Jimmy's jersey by any means, but I'm just speaking for this context. We cannot pay you for what you used to be, and Pat Riley definitely ain't paying Jimmy for what he used to be. And another thing, Jimmy screwed the pooch trying to play psychological warfare against Pat Riley. And the one thing I know, and my parents know this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all that are watching, y'all parents know this too. The one thing you can never do with Pat Riley is try to play a psychological warfare game against him. Shaq pointed this out. Because if you try playing psychological warfare against that guy, chances are you are not winning that battle, and you're going to lose embarrassingly. I mean, I think Pat Riley could be, or he's on his way to becoming the Jerry Jones of the NBA, even though Jerry is a whole nother issue, but, I'll leave that to the footballers that know a lot more than me, because I love football, but my knowledge is as good as a damn newborn squirrel, meaning it's not. But my point is what team is willing to pay for Jimmy Butler, who will be 36, excuse me, again, who is willing to pay Jimmy Butler at the age of 36 at the end of 2025? What team is willing to pay him? I doubt Golden State will, because they didn't play Klay Thompson. Houston could, but would you want to sacrifice your young core that you're building with to sign aging Jimmy Butler? Would the Dallas Mavericks want to do the same thing? Would the Suns find themselves in cap space hell? Because it's already bad enough in the Bradley Beal situation, because that's where I think the Suns screwed up. But you take on Jimmy Butler, who can complement both Book and KD, but you have to pay him his extension. Now, I don't know what is going to happen in the near future when it comes to Jimmy's contract situation. And I don't know if it'll be good or bad. I guess it depends how it plays out. But as of right now, this whole situation is just really weird. And this situation can make his career, but it can also break his career and derail it completely. And so far, I think it's backfiring on Jimmy because of the suspension. Now, I know the Players Association is trying to release a statement of their disapproval, but the suspension is going to happen regardless. And personally, I don't have a problem with it, because Jimmy has been giving a lot of mixed signals to Heat fans and to NBA fans, I guess. But this is just a bad look for him. But I'm not surprised he do this, because he did it with his other teams. It's just now that the Heat are calling his bluff and they're giving him a suspension as a result of them calling out his bluff. And I think the league has a lot to do with it too, and Adam Silver. I do believe, though, that all those teams that are on Jimmy's list, especially with Golden State and Houston being the favorites odds-wise to land him, I think they can use Jimmy and his services. I think it would be beneficial to both those squads, but at the end of the day, he is getting older, and he is the player he is. And I just don't see a scenario where it's this ends up being good for Miami or Jimmy or possibly both. But I think it's definitely one or the other in this scenario. So, I don't know. I just figured I'd give you guys 18 minutes of my time. So, yeah. That's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.